Welcome into Rounding the Bases.
Round the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg. It's around the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg.
Welcome into another episode of Rounding the Bases, presented by Community America Credit Union, invested in you. I'm Joel Goldberg. Shout out to my friends, as always, the Chief of Staff, Kansas City. It's been a great 2025 with them. They're the best in the business. If you're looking for a job, looking to hire someone, looking for a great resource, we had a career development day there recently that I spoke at. Check them out, chiefofstaffkc.com, making connections that matter. I've got a roundtable today. I love to do an end of the year podcast. And sticking to the theme, I asked my AI co-host to help me introduce today's roundtable, and it told me, quote, Joel, if you're going to talk about AI, you'd better bring in people who are smarter than both of us combined. I don't know who us is, me and ChatGPT, so I did. Today we've got three pros who live at the intersection of creativity, strategy, and what's next. Alan Landever, a guy who can spot a trend earlier than most of us can spot our own phones. I think that's right. ChatGPT wrote that. Lindsay Howerton, who understands people and messaging so well, she may actually be an early human version of machine learning. And Brian Olson from Waltz Tetrick, one of the rare creatives who can make AI feel less like a threat and more like a teammate with good lighting. I don't know how I wrote that or came up with it, but I just thought I'd break a trend. Instead of pretending like I didn't use AI and acting like I didn't and came up with it on my own, I'm just going to admit to it. I said, break something out for me. My AI co-host, it didn't tell me to say that part, but my AI co-host wrapped it up by saying, if you want a great conversation about the future, start with people who are actually shaping it. And that's what we are doing here. I have no idea exactly what happened, but I do know right now that I am excited to be joined by the three aforementioned. I don't know, Alan's the AI expert. He's got his own consultancy and helping out in the education world. But Alan Landever, Lindsay Howerton, Brian Olson. Lindsay's a returning guest on the podcast. Brian, guy I've known for a long time, one of the first people to hire me to speak. I don't know what you were thinking, taking a chance on me. And Alan's been a close friend. I want to start with this, guys, because I thought let's just talk AI for a year-end podcast because it affects all of us. Maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, Alan Landever is sitting in my basement. And as he often does, because he's a tinkerer, he's an explorer. If he doesn't end up on the moon one day or up in space, he'll at least envision having been there. He's an explorer. And he says to me one day, among his million ideas, I got this thing for you that can fill in the blank with AI, what ChatGPT does. And I'm like, you're crazy. Nobody's going to use this thing. Well, here we are all this time later. He was an early adopter. So, Alan, how far has this come in the last year and a half?
Oh my God. It's like surfing a tsunami, Joel. It's just so much power, so much change, and it's remarkable. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where you have AI in your browser. So as you're browsing websites or configuring a server, as I do, and I do it through a browser interface, I've got AI over my shoulder to help me out. It can see what I can do. It can see my screen. It does everything but do it for me, and I know it can. So it gets actually pretty scary when you think about it.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of stuff in here that scares the crap out of me, and we could get to that later as well. I want to talk, Lindsay, to you because, I think I never know how to describe you because you do a million things, and but manufacturing has been your world forever, and you're a fractional COO among it. I always feel like whatever I say is not enough because you're doing 1,000 things at once and doing them very well. But I think about the manufacturing world, which blue collar usually, maybe less likely to adopt or adapt to some of this technology because hey, we've always done it this way, hard work and show up and do all this, but yet. I'm of the belief that if you're going to get left behind, you're going to be in trouble here. You got to be able to keep up. And so AI very much matters in manufacturing and every world for that matter as well. What are you hearing and seeing from people in that industry?
They're racing to the technology. So I was on with a plant yesterday talking to a plant leader, and we had a problem with a machine where it's supposed to divide rocks out with the product. And I used AI to term the issue. and it knew it was water pressure immediately as the clarifying questions. I always ask AI to give me 6 clarifying questions that it can ask me. And the first thing it asks is about water pressure. They'd actually already solved the issue in which water pressure was the problem. It's incredible how fast, when I ask AI to take the role of a premier leader in this type of machine, know everything about it, and help me problem solve, that it comes to the answer before my technicians. So I'm seeing it both on the operations side and the marketing side. There are so many opportunities in marketing to increase sales by these very personalized ads that go directly to consumer or to other businesses. So I don't think that there's anyone, when you've got an individual that is doing operational excellence, that is trying to promote or push. Now, you have some people that are slightly resistant on what you would kind of said as the old timers. There are some folks that if you can't touch it and see it, it's hard for you to visualize how to fix it. But I have OE people that are all over the place pushing operational excellence, and the only thing they want to talk about is AI.
It's crazy. It really is. And, I want to get a little bit in a moment back to the intro that I did not write, just in terms of it. And I really believe that Brian and I are probably most aligned with this, just because, Brian, I'm not in the marketing world, but I'm in the content world. I know we all are, but there's I think there's hesitation in every profession, right? Are we going to lose jobs? Are we going to lose our mind? And I want to go into it in a little bit, how I use this and still stay sharp, because I think that there is a danger of putting your whole life on autopilot that can hurt you. Yet, I think if you're paying attention and you continue to use your brain, you end up becoming that much better using this incredible tool. But you can't just kick back and say, in the same way that if you have one of these self-driving cars now, I know that sounds crazy, but a lot of the cars now have a function where you can not only put on the cruise control, but let it drive itself. But the moment you look away, it beeps at you. You got to pay attention. AI doesn't do that for us. It just takes over. So I'll get into that in a moment. But Brian, I'm so interested in your perspective on this, because you live in a world of creatives. And I know those creative people live for being creative. That is what they do. That is what they are paid to do. So how is AI affecting the marketing and the advertising world, especially with those creatives? How can it help them, and what are the hesitations?
Yeah, it's affecting all aspects of advertising and marketing, and I think that's a industry that people typically think of because they realize that AI can write copy, can generate images and all of that, but it's really affecting every industry, as you said. Specific to this group, though, and I am not a creative. Everybody that knows me would tell you I'm the least creative person they know. I'm more of like a data-driven, more strategy. But it's really about the talented people that know how to do these things. Like a really great writer using these tools uses the tools really, really well. And it allows some of the heavy lifting, the more task-oriented work, the information gathering and aggregation to happen better, faster, smarter. That truly just frees them up and gives them more time to do what they got in the business to do in the first place. So that really ideating, strategic problem solving, creative ideas for how to meet the need of a client. The same thing applies whether it's writing, designing, photography or video or image editing. You think about, if you were going to write a prompt to get an image of something, an image of a hamburger or whatever it is, how you might ask for that is very different than a photographer that would know, type of camera and angle and lighting and all of those things. So they, their skill set, utilizing the right tools is what can make these tools great and really free them up to focus on other things, more, bigger ideas, more challenging things. But I just want to point out that ChatGPT or some of those platforms, that is just one small example of this space. And whether you call it AI or machine learning, I think the ability for clients to just learn faster, so to have more information, more intelligence, learn faster, make better decisions, is what's going to allow them to compete going forward. So to your point earlier, companies that don't do that stand to fall behind if they don't jump in.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I want to go back to the intro that I didn't write, because usually I have a well-written intro, which comes from my assistant, Ashley. She puts a lot into it. And I felt like with the panel here of 3 guests that I all know, that I was just going to wing it, which I could do. Lindsay knows my personality. She could dissect all of our personalities. It's one of her many skillful traits. But I also think that for the sake of just curiosity, I said, I didn't give it any context either. I have Alan Landever coming on, Lindsay Howerton, and Brian Olson, and I mentioned Waltz Tetrick. I'm doing an end of the year podcast just on AI. Can you write me something that I'm going to credit to you to be able to use as an experiment? And that's what it came up with. It was okay. It wasn't great. Wasn't awful. Got the job done. But I gave it nothing. And so part of that experiment was to be able to see what happened. I should have really actually had Claude do a similar version and see how that differed from ChatGPT, because I'm really enjoying seeing when one does one thing, comparing it to the other, and trying to get a feel for what works better in certain situations. And I'm getting a feel for that. There are a lot of things that Claude can do better from what I've seen than ChatGPT. But my point to this is, and then Lindsay, I want to go to you on this, because you're so often telling me, keep your voice, and, this is who you are, and we want to be able to promote, who you are and your characteristics and on, is that I could not crank out the amount of material that I'm cranking out content-wise right now without the help of AI, meaning that with my personality, as you know, Lindsay, I'm a fast start, but I'm a poor follow through. So I'll start on all of this and I'll move on to something else. That's just the way my brain is wired. This has now enabled me to have regularity and consistency with what I'm doing. But there's a rule that I'm holding myself to, and it's this: for anything that I do with AI, the ideas have to start from me, the information has to start with me, and the finish has to be with me. So if I can at least get it started in the right direction, more so than I did with the intro to this, context, proper prompts, and understanding my voice, and then I can have the critical eye to look at it and say, that's not right. That's not how I would do this, and push back and have that argument with it. My wife yells at me. She doesn't yell at me. She laughs at me all the time that I'm yelling and arguing with these, AI platforms, and she's serious too. So I'm curious about that, because it feels to me like there's a great danger for the people that maybe are just using it like a Google search, which is such a simple bottom, like there's so much more to do. What are the risks here? Because for me, I feel like I'm doing things I've never been able to do before while still maintaining my voice, but I fear that a lot of people aren't doing that.
I'll grab that in the fact that it's perspective. So, Joel, you talk to your AI, right? You're an extrovert. You want to talk out loud. It processes. It's interesting. I've just started talking. I want to type. Although I noticed that my introvert doesn't do well because I just assume it should know as an introvert, like introvert problems. But what I would say is if you're at risk if you're using it in a way that doesn't optimize your performance. If you're just trying to get it to do your work, I don't think you're best utilizing it. If you're looking for ways, you talk about you're a fast start, you have how many ideas in a day, and how do you optimize those into actual execution? I want to teach and help people understand AI should offset the thing you're not. And by that execution, it's pretty incredible. So I don't naturally want to know the execution part in the bandwidth that I have. I can ask it to give me a 4-part, how do I move forward? And it's incredible. I can do personas of, I need to talk to a visionary because I feel a lot of risk at this situation. Can you help me with a program that helps address the risk in addition to using my natural technical nature. So Joel, my answer would be, don't use it as this low level, I'm going to paste my email in and I'm going to have it respond. But hey, here's what I feel. This is what, as a role, it's not my natural strength. Play upon my natural strength of relationship. If I'm Joel, I'm a natural storyteller. But how do I execute down to the weeds of the newsletter? Take this idea and help me with the details. And that complement is where the optimization and the growth and the giving you back bandwidth on the content comes. And it's pretty incredible. And it's life-changing, in my opinion.
I have a project just in ChatGPT, and anytime something pops up in the course of a day, whether it be on the baseball field, whether it be on a podcast, at a speech, or just at the grocery store, if it seems like something I could write about, I add it to a list. And I figure out, okay, let's make this a future one that we're going to use. Alan, you are doing this at a level that would make most people's heads spin. You are designing systems for school districts. And I think it's so interesting because if we go back to a couple of years ago, year and a half ago, it at least seemed to me, and you live in a world of academia. Your wife is a college dean. You got 2 college kids. Well, 1 now, I guess, but you get the point. And so, and you've got a great background in education too. It feels to me like the biggest pushback on AI early on was academia, and it seemed to me like at a certain point they realized we better actually start teaching this because these kids are going to need it in school. And maybe we were looking at the wrong thing. Maybe we were barking up the wrong tree, so to speak, in being worried about plagiarism, which was such an old school way of doing things. And yes, plagiarism's bad, but more like, wait a minute, can we teach off of this? I don't know if I'm describing that as eloquently as you can, but what have you seen in the education world and the adaptation to AI? Because it feels like that's come really quick.
So I've been working really closely with superintendents across Kansas and through their associations. And what their concern is, and it's a very valid concern, we really need to be very thoughtful about how we use this in school and what this is generating and how it's formed, and really to build that kind of AI literacy, because we're making serious policy decisions and really don't understand how this thing works. So that's been the big focus of what we've been working on. And one of the things that was discovered right away, and I think you exemplified it, there's ChatGPT and there's Claude, and there are different models. There are different AI models. And then even within ChatGPT, there's a bunch of different models that we've experienced. We had 4 before, now we're at 5. And every day it grows and changes and it acts different. Understanding how that happens is a thoughtful process that makes you think, I need to have more control over this. So what we've done with the school districts is we've built a private AI solution where we basically have an API connection to a particular version of a model. So we have consistency. So we're not using the public-facing AI. And what that does for us is it allows us to remove a big variable, because those AI, as you see, it gets better and it's changing all the time. Well, the way it's going to respond to you is going to change over time then too. So we can kind of pin that AI model, pick the ones that we want to use for the proper tools. And some of them are good for some stuff, and some of them, I should say, they're all good for a lot of stuff, but some are better in some areas than others. So to kind of have that thoughtful process. And what we've been doing is really focusing on the administrators. And this association provides a lot of training to administrators. So what we've done is we've taken some of that curriculum and we've put that into an AI knowledge base. So create a purpose-built tool to go along with that lesson or with that day's workshop. Now it becomes something that you can trust, that's monitored by a subject matter expert, and provides more consistent responses. And it's not just some random AI that you don't know how it's working or where it's going. So I think taking control is the key that everybody needs to start thinking about. There's all sorts of other data sensitivity issues, and what is AI doing with our information and algorithms and all of that kind of stuff. And if you think about how it predicts what, even before the AI stuff, right? We talk about something and it shows up in AI on Facebook. It's constantly learning from us we're pouring our hearts and souls into AI, and it's collecting all of that data as well. So that really, when you start thinking about it from that standpoint, getting away from a public AI solution and into a private AI solution has all the more appeal.
Security issues, yeah. And I want to follow up with one thing. It's just a question, and then I'll move on and back to Brian. But I was thinking about this. I was working on a little project the other day, and by the way, this is what it can do. I mean, I built in the last month an assessment that I'm offering now to clients to walk away with a value add from my speeches. And there's automation with all of it. And it is something that I would have never understood how to build before. I'm not a builder, but it helped me step by step to do it. It took me more hours than it should because I'm not good at that type of stuff, but it just kept iterating and helping me. And so it's like the opposite of one of those, IKEA instruction manuals that basically shows you like a tiny little picture. Good luck. It's there for you all. Like, I do think it's interesting that ChatGPT, for me, once it inevitably runs out of options or ideas that aren't working, it just goes in circles. And maybe some of that's my prompt. But Claude seems to dig deeper and look for other things instead of going in circles. So I've had better luck in kind of building stuff. But I think it's so interesting, Alan. I have not quite finished the Audible recording for my book that came out in February. So a little late on that. Baseball season got in the way. We're recorded on that, but what we decided with my producer for that is that we want to take any quote from the book. I think you even had this idea once, Alan. Any quote that appeared in the book that originated on my podcast, we want to replace me reading that quote with the actual voice and the soundbite. Well, I went into ChatGPT and Claude, both of which have the full transcript, the full copy PDF of my books. And I then uploaded a transcript from one of the podcast guests, say Lorenzo Cain, the former Royal. And I said, give me time codes for every quote that appears in the book on where they appeared in the podcast so that I could then clip those sound bites, and I know how to edit, and give them to my producer. Instead of it being like a 10-hour project, it's probably like a 1-hour project. ChatGPT didn't give me accurate quotes. Claude nailed it like that. I bring that up, one, because I like sharing these ideas, because if it triggers something for anyone that is listening, to just get you to explore different ways to use this. Or Alan, you've been great at saying, watch this YouTube video. Just go into the rabbit hole, because it's how you're going to get better and not get left behind. Why is, in this case, Claude doing what I asked it to and ChatGPT not? I'm guessing it is a prompting fault on my part.
Well, it's not necessarily prompting fault. I mean, your prompts could always be better. There's no doubt about that. But you're familiar with the concept of the context window. So when you're prompting and AI responds and you upload a document for it to look at, all of that information during this chat session is going into the context window. That's how we could remember the thing you talked about 3 parts back in that chat. ChatGPT's got a context window like this. Claude's got a context window like this. Gemini, Google, really good. It's free on your Chrome browser. It's got 1 million token context window. It's huge. So that's a big part of it. That's why it starts getting stupid, because it's forgetting the earlier stuff, the stuff. So it's not there anymore. I personally, my little paranoid side thinks it's screwing with us a little bit too, and kind of getting more of our personality out of us. But it definitely, the context window has a lot to do with that.
It's so interesting. And I feel like, I guess I need to add Gemini to my list. I keep seeing all the ads. I just haven't messed with it yet. It's like, how many relationships am I going to be in here? It doesn't
upgrade your
stop.
Chrome browser and it'll be easier.
Yeah, I saw it there. I didn't, but it is crazy. Like ChatGPT didn't work. So I wanted to take all the information it got on a project that I was working on and say, hey, I was hesitant at first. Like, hey, can you sum up what we've done so far so I can give it to Claude? And I'm like, I felt like, am I telling it I'm going to a competitor? It did not care. It's just like mentally, you're like, you wouldn't ask someone that you're doing business with, hey, by the way, I'm not sure this is working. Can you give me everything we've done so I can go to your competitor? It just doesn't work
So
like
the
that.
real
But
one I should tell you is Notebook LM. It's a Google product. It's a notebooklm.google. It's amazing. It allows you to, it's still that big giant context window. It's imagine 3 columns of the screen. One is put your sources in there. You literally could be share links from podcasts, from Spotify. Put your stuff in there. Or it could be my YouTube videos. I upload every stupid YouTube video I've done. It's got all the context of that. All my proposals. When I have meetings on Zoom, I record them. I take the transcript, I take that text and put it into it too. So it knows all of this stuff about me. Then in the middle column, it's like a chat. You can talk about all of those source materials. And it's great because it's only referring back to those materials. And it's just like throwing in links for YouTube videos. You don't have to listen to anything they're doing. And then on the third column, you can produce stuff. And this kind of can make a marketing guy cringe, I think, because it's amazing what can be produced out of this. You can create videos, you can create presentations, you can create mind maps and quizzes, all sorts of resources. It's free. Google's using it as a data grab. That's the whole point here is they want to get as much data from us as they can because they're going to be building the largest buildings in the world full of data centers, and they need data to go through that. So that's why they're issuing us all these wonderful things for us to use, and all these free users are certainly giving it up. They say for the paid users, they're not going to train on our stuff. I don't believe them. There's nothing that stops them from doing it. There's no law that stops them from doing it. So we're giving all of our intellectual property to these AI companies to train their next generation of model when we use these tools.
Brian, if you're not a creative, you work in a world and live in a world where a lot of creatives are working for you, and you're in that environment. I think you're more of you're a leader, you're a builder. I think you're certainly knee deep in some of the systems as well. What is the learning curve, if any, been for you in diving deep into this technology?
For me personally, once I dove in, Lindsay and I actually were just having this conversation. There's so much information available. You can learn extremely quickly. The way you learn the most is just by using the tools. And it's changing so fast that you have to continue to use it, or you're going to not know all the the features and the way to prompt appropriately, the way to protect the information that you put in from the large language models and all of that. So I think the learning curve can be long for somebody that's not using it every day. It can be very short, but it's continuous because, again, it's just changing so fast. All platforms, all ways that you use the platforms are changing every single day. And so to stay on top of it, you just kind of have to be in it.
So let's talk a little bit about that. What are you working on right now, and what are you building?
So kind of across the board. So on the operational side, things to create efficiencies in accounting and HR. On the creative side, I think there's probably 11 or 12 different tools that the team uses for to improve editing efficiency, to create storyboards, to bring storyboards to life in a more realistic way, to do some of the basic task work that we've talked about. We're using these horizontal platforms, so ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude, and developing research models. So think of like a private equity firm that's looking for their next acquisition, or a franchise looking to decide which markets they should go into, where they should have more franchises. We're conducting research, and so far we've been able to compare the research that we're conducting with synthetic personas and these platforms with real life research that we've primary research, surveys, interviews. And it's amazing how close the results are and the findings are. Now, you have to have a certain technique and do it the right way, but it's amazingly similar results. But I would say the number one thing we're spending time on is what I mentioned earlier, which is building these connective tissues, AI layers that connect the dots from all the different data sources and organizations to help the C-suite just have more intelligence and see around the corners, predict things a little further in advance so that they can be prepared for it.
Lindsay, I want to go to the maybe we should get to the scary section of this conversation. But before we get into, I'll pick Alan's brain on where this thing could go. It'll be like an episode of 60 Minutes that makes us think the world is coming to an end or something like that. But in so many of the people you're dealing with this world, I know we're hearing a lot of, well, I don't want my job replaced. There's a lot of fear of that, whether true or not, maybe some of the unknown. How do people focus on not being replaced? I know that's a very broad discussion, but I mean, I'm of the belief that you don't have to be replaceable, but it can be easy to be replaced as well. What are your thoughts?
So, I think.
Let me go to
Lindsay.
Go on. Yeah, Lindsay, go ahead.
Well, yeah, Lindsay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So, well,
all right, Alan.
Okay, now I don't remember the question. So,
the fear of being replaced. I mean, I think it's a look. Change is hard for everyone.
Yeah, it's everything's going to change, right? I mean, think about whatever your job was back in the day before electricity was around, and those jobs aren't. Lots of those jobs changed, right? This is the new electricity. Every way businesses operate needs to change. It's going to take some time to evolve to that. I think that some of the simplest things that are happening with it, from a code standpoint, we don't need middle-level coders anymore. I'm building stuff I have no business being able to build. It should take a team of a database guy and a front-end guy and all sorts of a team to create these tools I'm building, and I'm able to build them by myself. So it enters this kind of age of empowerment where I'm building things that never would have gotten built because it's not worth hiring all those people to build this kind of a thing that I'm trying to build. But it's my idea. What used to take a team, it's my weekend project now, and I can get it done. So that's super empowering. I think that's it's just going to change the business landscape. I mean, it's going to be scary. It's going to make a lot of change. It's going to be hard for a lot of people. I'm really nervous about that. But, I think that's why my focus is on AI literacy and helping people to learn to use these tools and apply them and use their subject matter expertise and kind of put that into the AI in a controlled way where they can own it and they can leverage it. But yeah, the world's going to change very fast, and it's not like electricity because it took a long time to pull those wires and do all that stuff and change the world. This is a click away, and that's kind of shocking.
Yeah, it is shocking. It is scary. It is moving. I mean, I think, from a perspective, Lindsay, you mentioned the word perspective before, and everything that Alan just said. Remember when the internet came out? Remember on and on and on. I mean, there are so many moments in our lifetime where there's been massive change over something. And so we're not going back. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. But I do think, to me, I hear hope in Alan's voice when I hear him saying, well, but if you learn how to do this, then you don't need to be replaced, or maybe your job changes. But if I'm a programmer, a coder, or fill in the blank of all kinds of other jobs, I'm sitting there saying, what the heck? Like, I spent my life studying all this, and now somebody that hasn't studied it at all can do that in an hour? Wait a minute. I should have been hired by Joel Goldberg to build his trust assessment, and he just did it on his own. And so that's really exciting for me, but it's got to be scary as heck for someone that suddenly realizes that what they put their life into is easily done by something else. How do you advise someone like that? Because to me, if it were me, Lindsay, I would have them focus on what opportunities lie ahead versus what has left them behind. But that's a pretty scary thing, I've got to think.
Well, I think growth mindset's pretty important here. If you stand still, if you don't adopt, if you're not willing to change, there's going to be an impact. And I think you're going to see people who are going to fall out of the system. I mean, I'll say in the consulting world, I see a significant change. We hire consultants as outside experts to come in and bring information that we didn't have in-house. AI is creating that expert scenario where I might not necessarily want you to build the assessment, right? You needed someone to build an assessment and now you don't. So I would encourage people who are watching this to think about, how do I be an early adopter? Where do I go get information? How do I think about, I remember my husband and I talking about the reality that you could search the internet on your phone, and that felt impossible to us. I mean, from an age of a bag phone, right? A bag phone seemed pretty remarkable, that I could call from my little town somebody anywhere on my bag phone. This new technology is coming. And the things that I couldn't ever have visualized when I was in high school are now so far surpassed where I would have ever dreamed or expected. You've got to get on the boat of this. And it's hard to do research. I mean, frankly, I don't think it's there isn't a playbook on how do I become an AI expert. It takes quite a bit I've listened to a lot of bad podcasts about AI. Just trying to figure out how to write a good prompt. I would argue that the first thing you need to do, write a good prompt. Learn how to write a good prompt to get the thing you want, and don't make it so complex. ChatGPT and I get really angry with each other when I try to get a complex multi-step or multi-dimensional thing. It sees the world flat. So, essentially we're always going to need people. It isn't at the stage right now where it can do complex things, multiple things at once without people. There's always going to be a role for us. But if you don't know how to use it, you may get left behind, in my opinion.
All right, as we get ready to wrap things up here, I want to get into what we're excited about for 2026. And I don't want to end on a low note or a scary note. It doesn't have to be a low note, but I want Alan to scare the heck out of everybody now, because the conspiracy theorists, if that's the right way to label it, and Alan, you've been known to dabble in a theory or two yourself. Open-minded would be the nice way for me to put it. By the way, Alan's a very smart, rational guy as well. But you are open-minded to some of the crazy stuff out there. And the more and more I see AI, the more and more it scares me. I'm all in on it, by the way. Like I love it. But again, I want to keep my voice, keep my perspective. But then you hear stuff about the world's going to get taken over and on and on. And I don't know about that, but you could start seeing some of the pieces that connect of how this thing could get out of control. What's the worst place this could go? Or I don't know, give us some shock value here, because I mean, like, good stuff, not like what could happen.
Wonderful. But just here's some shocking wonderfulness. You remember Pokemon Go? I probably is still a thing, right? Where people, kids or whoever go around, and they like, oh, there's a Pikachu on the tree. Let's go to the park and take a picture of that tree and get the Pikachu, right? You know what I'm talking about? Well, all that is a data grab. That's to give real world models data. That's the whole point of that game. Everything they're doing is to create this data. We're going to have robots really, really soon. Elon Musk, everybody, not just him, Tesla and others. These humanoid robots are amazing. And the Tesla robot is going to have in its chest the same computer that's inside the Tesla car. So that's the best AI team in the world who's created that technology. Now the robot's going to have all of that same capability, plus AI built in. So it's going to be able to handle, that's a scary prospect for all sorts of things. Lots of manual labor can now be done by robots. You have robots working in the fields. You can have robots caring for, doing health care, types of stuff. Lots of wonderful things coming here, but that's a little bit scary. I mean, we're jumping into Star Wars world in 5 years, it's like, that's going to be shocking. I think the best part of this is the fact that, it can look over your shoulder, so to speak, by seeing your screen and your browser, and can be your personal tutor, and can train you the way you want to be trained and guide you the way for the project that you want to work on. I've got the greatest assistants in the world. I'm a solo entrepreneur, and I've got this power that it's like, it freaks me out. I'm in it 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night or more every day.
No more.
I'm just pounding on this thing. So I'm seeing it from, so yeah, it's going to be shocking, and it's going to be super empowering. Those that decide to take it and build with it and not just be a passive user, like your Google analogy, and I would even extend that to, frankly, the way that you've been talking, like prompting it and just asking it. You have to build your tool. You can do it in GPT, in OpenAI. You can build a GPT in Claude. You can build, I forget what they call it, gems or whatever they call it. But they have like where you can add knowledge. You can ground the model a little bit. Then at least you're working with something that you've created that you can trust a little bit. You can go back and iterate with that. It'll cut down the yelling with ChatGPT because you'll start to learn what you want. But really, the next step is you got to get off the commercial AI data mill and get control of your own intellectual property and do it on your own. It's not hard to do. It's not terribly expensive. It's shockingly inexpensive, and it's doable. It's very, very doable.
And the price to pay is maybe your data, but yes, it is not all that expensive. Sorry, that wasn't too scary. We could have gone even worse. I'm sure.
I can go deep if you want, but you told me to back off.
I know you can. That might be a whole nother podcast. Brian, what are you looking forward to in terms of this space in 2026?
Well, first of all, I think that there's going to continue to be a focus on governance and compliance and data security. And so all the things that you just talked about, there's people see the headlines all the time about AI initiatives that fail, job loss, carbon footprint, all of this stuff. Some of it's true, but I would just encourage people to look into it. The more the companies understand and are compliant and do have governance policies and really focus on and they're intentional about how they use data and use these tools, the better off we're all going to be. And all of these huge companies that are investing heavily in this space are also investing in ways and initiatives to have better cooling functionality in data centers and reduce the carbon footprint there. They're focused on the human side of AI and how to create educational programs that help people understand how to use these tools, how to navigate this world to address job loss discussions. So, there's good and bad with everything. And when the internet first came out, email was first a thing. There wasn't such a thing as a spam filter, right? Until people started using it the wrong way, and now there's an entire industry around how to protect from spam and stuff like that. So everything is just changing so quickly. That's all going to continue to evolve. So I think maybe the number one thing that C-suites and different organizations can focus on is how they lead change in their organizations, because the majority of the time when initiatives like this fail, just like every other tech revolution that we've seen, they fail because of poor leadership, poor management through change, because people are scared and there is hesitation and they don't know what to do. So leading organizations well through times of change will make all the difference in the world. And then, of course, from a data side and, with all of the precautions around data, the data it's been collected for a long time. AI is not new. It's been around for years. So there are more tools than ever in how we can manage the collection and use of data. There's going to be more compliance around how data is collected and utilized. So again, at the highest level of organizations, being really focused on what are their use cases, what are the right tools to use to solve some of those use cases, how do they lead their organizations effectively through this change, and how can they govern and monitor and make sure that they have the things in place to protect and keep confidential data, users of these tools and their activities, and so on. So there's a million tools. They're going to continue to emerge and evolve. It's not about the bright, shiny objects or the tools. It's about the organization, how they have real change in their organization, how they lead that. Really
interesting stuff. And Lindsay, I'll give you the final thought on this as we look forward to 2026, we are moving at such a fast pace. I'll double down on what we've all been talking about. Change has happened forever. It'll continue to happen forever. But I don't know that we've seen anything moving this quickly when you look at all of the big tech money that's going all in on all of this. They all want to be the first. I heard something on a podcast maybe a year or so ago. Someone said something like, ChatGPT might at one day might be looked back at as the MySpace of AI. I don't know if that's true or not, other than the point to me is that what it looks like right now is not what it will look like in the future. And we'll remember remember back when we used to argue with ChatGPT. And there are a lot of people, I was talking to a CEO the other day, and I forget the expression, I should have looked it up, but he was basically saying like he has reached the point with AI where he's so unsure about it because it's not right that he wants to give up. And basically this is part of what happens with change. If he keeps on going and keeps on iterating, it's going to get to where he wants it to go. But right now he doesn't have a lot of confidence and belief in it. And I remember when I first started with ChatGPT, I'm like, yeah, but it's wrong. And so I just wanted to be done with it. And then it started to be more right, and then even more right. And more right, which is exciting and scary all at the same time. What are you looking forward to in 2026? And how concerning or not is this rapid growth so fast?
For me, I mean, I feel like a kid before Christmas, and the fact that I work with an industry that lives in spreadsheets and hundreds of thousands of data points. And there hasn't been a way to synthesize all of that into something that is digestible for the normal person. And so for me, AI can come in and look at all these data points, hook into an MRP, an ERP, all the things, and be able to help the user who is sacrificing their body, sacrificing their time away from their family, all the things in the industries where we know there's an answer, but it's so laborious to get to it because of how big the data pool is. For those industries, this is going to be such a game changer where I can change lives. My whole, I want to change 1 million lives. AI is already helping me change lives faster because I had someone who for a year has been frustrated because they can't see the KPI. They can't see the dashboard. They've got bad data in, all the things. AI enables you to chew through that, pull specific threads to get the exact notion of, is the trend going up or down? It's remarkable how it's soothing the people in the organization. It's making the CEO feel better. I put my own model in of buying houses and asked what should I be doing based on my data. It gave me a model that I've been using for the last few months, and I'm making more money.
Wow.
And I'm helping more people. So I think we need to look at it from the position of optimism, that this is a way to increase your efficiency, your effectiveness, your natural gifts. Use it to fill the gaps, and don't make it too complex. Ask one thing at a time and educate yourself and be an early adopter, because once you get good at it, it's like going to the gym, right? You're not always great at it when you start. We all are. I was frustrated with it too. I was mad because it didn't give me the thing. As I realized I was introverting it and not giving it enough context and information. And when I thought like Joel and talked out loud a lot more, it gave me such better results. So the sky's the limit of what it can do to help us.
Well said. And it's never bad to be talking out loud unless there are other people in the room. And then my wife says, all right, enough already. Just like be done. But a lot of good stuff. If anyone wants to get a hold of any of you guys, I mean, Brian, I don't know if it's just through Waltz Tetrick. I know the website's WTADS.com. Is that the best way?
Yeah, or LinkedIn. Fuel Labs is actually a division that we've started dedicated to these initiatives. So Fuel Labs.ai or Waltz Tetrick, both are also on the LinkedIn profile.
Lindsay, how about for you?
My LinkedIn profile is fantastic, and just loving to teach people how to be a good user so that they can help their teams.
Alan, I know LinkedIn, but you got a good website as well, so I'll plug that.
So, and actually, I would recommend Landever.ai. I've got a lot of great resources on that webpage.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. We could do this discussion forever, and I suspect that if we were to do this discussion again next year, it would look and sound completely different. So we shall see what lies ahead for 2026. I'm grateful for all of you, Brian Olson, Lindsay Howerton, Alan Landever. Happy New Year's to you guys. Good luck in this AI endeavor, this AI Landever, if you will, because Alan will be knee deep in it every single moment of the day as he is. And I think the rest of us are hopefully early adapters like Lindsay has suggested. Guys, thanks so much for spending time on Rounding the Bases. I'm not going to do my usual baseball themed question, just the end of the year. It's all about AI right now. We'll see where it's going. Happy New Year, and thanks for coming on.
It's around the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg.